Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to Symbaroum. It's a Wednesday night. That can only mean one thing: travels in the dark forest of Davakar. Ooh, and we hope you're all excited and ready for it. We've got another wonderful session of Witch Hammer tonight. But before we start wheeling on our players and start doing recaps and stuff, let's do the usual promo business. We have a bunch of links down below this video, wherever you are watching. There's links to Twitch and to YouTube. You're watching this on one of those websites. Please do check out the other one. Twitch is where we do all our live stuff, and YouTube is where we store all of our video on demand. So have a play around on those accounts. We also have links to our social media, to our Patreon, to our Discord. Those all do the kind of thing you might expect. Check them out as well. We're currently running 2 weekly series. There is Symbaroum here on Wednesdays, which has another week left before we take our break over Christmas and New Year. And the same can be said for Vason, which is on a Monday. That kind of investigatory, folk horror Victorian thing from Fria Ligan. But I believe they're taking a 2-week break over Christmas and New Year. So this Monday will be their last session for until kind of the first weekish of January, something like that. Yeah, we also do monthly one-shots. The next one of this, which is this very Saturday, where we're playing Alien for the third time, again from Fria Ligan. We only ever play things from Fria Ligan, except all the things that we don't, that aren't from Fria Ligan. But yeah, it's the finale of a kind of Alien trilogy we've done over the last couple of years. We have, in fact, done one shot of it every year since our inception. And this, as I say, will be the finale of that. It's called An Offering of Locusts, and it will be live at 3 o'clock in the afternoon GMT. This coming Saturday, come join us for it. It should be good. If anyone wants to do so and wants to catch up on the previous 2 installments, they're both available on YouTube. Just have a look for A Place of Burning and A Congress of Sorrows. Yeah, that'll do for the promo, I think. Let's start wheeling on our in-house reprobates, also known as the players of Symbaroum. And we're going to start with Stephen.
Hello.
Hi, Stephen. Stephen plays Alindra, former Templar novice turned hitter of things with a sword. Well, that's what the Templar novice does anyway, but now you're doing it for pay.
Well, ostensibly. I mean, I'm still waiting for the pay, but yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems very convenient that the others kind of made their fortune before they brought you on board.
I know, right? They're all like, we don't want to go to Davakar. It's dangerous.
Yeah, you got to get
paid.
You got to get paid, son.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you pick up and tell us how the session last time?
Well, so the session started sort of mid-fight in an outpost, the name of which I've already forgotten.
The Viara outpost.
That's the one, the Viara outpost.
Viara.
Just kind of southish of Karvosti. And we just fought a bunch of barbarians, one of whom had stabbed Alindra quite badly. But having seen off a good chunk of the barbarians, the session started with a lindworm and a witch who kind of threw crazy explosive alchemical, desperately trying to avoid the word grenades around. So yeah, Alindra, even in her injured state, figured that the lindworm was probably something that needed dealing with, and somewhat foolishly kind of charged in. Failed to do it very much damage at first. Steo, I think, realized that he needs her help and stabbed it through the neck with a spear, which was good. Then Alindra got a decent hit in, and I believe Askarai finished it off with a well-placed arrow in an eye socket, which was good because that was really big and scary. And most of the rest of the time, it had a kind of weird shimmering camouflage thing that was sort of hypnotizing and distracting the rest of the party, who were just kind of gawping at it. Mostly Arindar. You're on mute. So we... Oh, I could have
Aaron,
just not told you.
see, that entirely explains, Stephen, why I tried to move on from your recap and you carried on going.
Right.
I was like, oh, Stephen just doesn't want to quit.
Yeah, we're just going for it.
Yeah. Speaking of Askarai, let's bring on Askarai, or as he's also known, Sam, who was going to tell us about how it all ended, but I think we're good now.
It ended as Stephen described very eloquently.
I should have.
That's a great recap.
Yeah. I mean, the Lindworm died. I think it fell through the palisade and the gate, something like that, and broke that down. And basically everyone immediately ran away, which makes sense if you're fighting with a permanent dive.
I even have chat telling me I'm on mute now. That's how bad that incident was. So there we go. VR outpost saved. Everyone felt good, apart from all the death and destruction. To talk a bit about that death and destruction, let's bring on Chris. Chris plays Steo, our resident former infantryman turned spear thruster for gold. Chris, how does it all go after everything went down?
There was some acrimonious piling of bodies of the northerners, of the tribesmen, were just getting put into a big pile and basically prepped for burning, which put a bit of a nasty taste in my mouth. But we were doing a little bit of CSI beforehand. Steo had departed the traditional post-fight pint in some haste to check the witch, not the clan witch, but the kind of attendant witch who was causing trouble with little explodey things, to see if she was iron-packed. But she was not, which was a weight off Steo's mind, because he was assuming that perhaps we backed the wrong horse in this fight. So we then did a little bit more while we were in the area, and since we'd already been poking around one body, we all eventually started having a little bit of a look-see. And before they managed to start the pyre, we took a good look at the bodies of the tribesmen, and discovered that where their clan tattoos would have been, there was quite a lot of scar tissue in line with removing tattoos. And it seems that they had all recently switched their allegiances or had their allegiances switched. That's kind of where my bit left, I think.
Oh my God, I'm mute again. They were something wrong with me. That is more or less. They had fresh tattoos on the inside of their wrists of a crown wreathed in thorns. Not the first time we've had crowns and thorns in this thing, but they didn't seem like they were, they weren't tattooed with an image of a copper crown. Now that would be a callback, and an unpleasant one. So let's bring on our next player. Let's bring on Mike. Mike plays Anton, the Theurg, priest of Prios, and all-round learned guy put into a situation where he's mostly called on to hit things with a stick. Mike, you had some business in the VR outpost and taking someone back to Karvosti. How did that all kind of pan out?
Yeah, so that was the deal before the combat, that we were going to escort Brother Bartho and his lady, I think, back to Karvosti. And after the combat, they were more than willing to do that and join us. And so we left the VR outpost with, I think, a few of the people from the VR outpost as well.
Yeah, a couple of guards.
A couple of guards, yeah. I think
Irella's son basically sent you along a couple of guards as help.
Yeah. We pretty much made our way northwest along the cold, muddy path towards Karvosti.
Absolutely. Let's bring on our final player. It's John, who plays Sir Arindar, last scion of House Dar, duelist, cat owner, and all-round nice guy. John, you've got the fun bit of the recap this week, which is relaying the huge info dump that Brother Bartho did at the end of the last session. So why don't you kick us off?
I do, but luckily I tricked some poor sap into writing all of it down for me. So Brother Bartho had only actually accompanied Amendra on one occasion to a ruin called Fria Ligan, which Amendra ended up going in alone because Bartho had been injured and had to wait outside. Amendra seemed to find what she was looking for, but also said that she'd disturbed something which should have been left sleeping, which is never something you want to hear about Davakar. And as they were traveling, she also mentioned having been to a place called Yeferon Isle on Lake Volgoma and basically met someone who talked about a hidden passage in the cliffs of Karvosti, and also mentioned that Elendra had wanted to speak to a girl called Elida, who had been, at the time, with the witches on Karvosti, but now seems to have returned to New Earthmore, which is a heretical settlement quite far away.
But still within...
Yeah. It's still within walking distance, but, it's a bit of a trek for the lead.
Yeah. And I believe there was, as well, one other thing.
Yes. So as we approached Karvosti, we saw, I can't remember if it was one or two of the giant wooden colossi that the witches use. One that the witches use to travel around. And I believe Bartho said something like the keepers had arrived.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Do we remember who the keepers are?
Not entirely.
Witches.
Some great revisions to the recaps tonight.
I think they're like base high-ranking witches, right?
Yeah, each clan has a head witch called a keeper. So, yeah, absolutely. And I think that is kind of more or less where we'll pick things up. But it's up to you. Bartho doesn't have a huge amount more to say, other than he's kind of made it clear that he's waiting for your for whether, I suppose that's something else we didn't mention as well, that he essentially has said that he is willing to make a deal with you to give you kind of more information about these places that might help you go to them and track, kind of follow in the footsteps of Elmendra. But in order to do so, you will have to promise to give him anything related to Elmendra and essentially tell him everything first, and also he gets to keep anything that's of Elmendra's or that might lead to Elmendra.
Yeah, and we'd established that we can't just lie to him about doing that because we have Arindar in the party.
Yeah. But also you, I think we'd reached the general conclusion that maybe a bit more discussion has to be held around it, but the answer's no. I think was the general consensus. So you have, as I say, arrived back at Karvosti. And as you do so, as you reach the base of the plateau where the ramp leads up onto the top, I think, as we've already said, it's like, starting to get a bit dark as you are sort of proceeding. And as you come to the base of the ramp and kind of through that small refugee camp at the bottom of it, you hear the noise of kind of some not entirely aggressive, but also not entirely placid shouting, and people being kind of like in the refugee camp being moved out of the way behind you.
Okay, is something coming up behind us then? Is that because the shambling friends were going right up the side of the cliff, weren't they, with the witch?
Yeah, the colossi was indeed going up the side of the cliff. Sounds to me like you're turning and having a look at what may or may not be behind you.
I absolutely am.
What you see is something. It has a few different names. The name I like is Palanquin. which is a kind of a large throne-like chair formed of twisted wood held aloft onto bars by a number of large, masked, heavily tattooed barbarians. And in that palanquin, a witch. Long, flowing white hair. Each of the clansfolk holding her aloft has a chain hanging from their belt with a glowing orange light on it. You can't really, it's bright enough that you can't really see the provenance of it, but some kind of maybe alchemical mixture, or perhaps even some witchcraft is lighting the area around as they walk through the twilight towards the base of the ramp. They show no particular signs of slowing with you in front of them and seem to expect you to get out of their way.
I'll kind of shout attention and get everyone to barrel to one side if we can let them pass without throwing ourselves off the cliff or throwing ourselves off the ramp.
Yep.
Step aside.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Tom, you have Lawmaster, and I'll also allow Ascarai to roll for it because he spent a lot of time in the area. Could you both give me a roll of cunning, please?
I make it.
I do not.
You notice, the barbarians are all very heavily tattooed, as you can see from the image there. You see a number of tattoos, and Tom, that mark them as Odavs.
Okay. Whoever I'm stood by, I will whisper that to them.
And in fact, you know what? I will also allow you, Anton. Give me another cunning roll. Let's say like a -1.
Do not make it.
Never mind. You do not know the name of the keeper of the Odavs, but that is clearly her, and she is being carried up the rampway ahead of you now. Bartho and the guards and Bartho's companion also kind of stepped to one side rather hurriedly and are now carrying on behind them more slowly than they were perhaps before, so as not to kind of catch up with them.
I might turn to Bartho and just ask how common it is that the keepers come to Karvosti.
Well, I mean, I'm no expert on these chief witches. In times of crisis, or so I hear.
So tensions may be high on the plateau.
Maybe.
There was usually
called by the Huldra, I think.
That makes sense.
There was an Ambrian invasion a couple of nights ago. I mean,
I wonder if it's that or if it's Almendra who's caused this.
I wonder if it's all connected.
Could be.
I wonder if we can get a pint.
Ooh.
I don't think that's in doubts, yeah.
That doesn't make it any the less a profound thing to be wondering.
So you proceed up to the plateau of Karvosti. Obviously, by the time you get to the top, the keeper of the Odavs has long gone inside. Bartho and the guards are admitted without any kind of problem, and you behind them, again with no particular problem. Now that you're on the plateau, Bartho tells you that he's going to go to the pilgrims' camp, make sure his tent is still in order, and settle himself there. And he says you can come to him with your response anytime you like. And he kind of wanders off into the encroaching darkness, with maybe a little pause and a little peer back at you over his shoulder before he carries on.
What of our friendly rent-a-guards from the camp? Are they going with them, or
they've gone straight to the longhouse?
Okay. Well, given it's just us, I would like to open by saying that I do not trust Brother Bartho one tiny bit, for the record.
You mean the information that he's given us already?
I do not want to take his gambit, his deal for additional information. I feel like that's worth more to him than his information is worth to us. I don't know how yet, and I'm not looking forward to finding out.
It's a bad deal and not one that I want to be held to. There is the slight question of, if we don't take the deal, how will we ever find these places?
I think we can ask around. He's given us the names which you'd hope would be enough in a place like Karvosti. There's travelers from all over. Clansmen, Ambrians, somebody should know where these places are.
If we can find where they are, then I guess we don't need him anymore. It would be really nice to somehow buy the ability for him to not go and spread this information amongst anybody else he happens to meet on Karvosti. But again, I don't know how we can actually do that. Well, I know one way that we can do that, and it's not.
I think that's the deal he's offered us, and I don't want to kill him either. Mostly because I have a funny feeling whatever game board we're on, he's the one who painted it. I don't know. I'm a paranoid old man who wants a pint.
Let's go to the longhouse.
We are, proceeding to the
Now, what I
longhouse.
would like to do is see if I can, if there's a way I can surreptitiously get Aaron to hang back and have a quick chat on slightly unsuspicious matters.
How about you? What's well, I feel like what you're rolling against is discreet against the best vigilant out of the others, which unfortunately for you is Askarai. Askarai having a 15 in vigilance, I think. So discreet at -5, please.
That's a 20 or nothing, my friends. That is a sorry, it's a 1 or nothing, and that's a 17.
Yeah. Basically, if you want to grab Arindar and hold him back, the others are going to notice. You can still do it, you know?
Yeah, I think I'll... okay, so everyone's going to notice.
You could make an excuse for it, but they'll still notice that you pulled Arindar.
Well, look, do you know what? The problem is, like, whatever happens here is against my discreet, which is 5. So it's just going to be very difficult to pull off. Even if I try and do it later in the longhouse, it's still going to be a discreet roll. But I might just get some better bonuses once we've had a few jars. I don't know.
Yeah, or find a place where not everyone is.
It sounds like we're going to the house and that you and Arindar are getting the drinks in.
Oh, that's a great idea. It's also still a discreet roll, but maybe with a better bonus.
Yeah.
If we're doing that. But anyway, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll try and get the first round and ask Aaron to help me.
Sure. Okay, then you know what? Give us another discreet roll, and you know what? I think that's a good excuse. I don't think they have any reason to. So give me a +5 on that one.
So that's even
fine.
Stevens. At least still feels it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anyone else has heard it, but like I definitely say that the three of you probably think that Steo and Arindar are having an unusually intense conversation at the bar between them. It's up to you to think about what that might be. But Steo and Aaron, go ahead.
We have work to do, Aaron.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm desperately in need of an outside idea of how to manage a situation where we're either going to be the only thing to stop a gold rush or participating in a gold rush for what must be the most dangerous settlement in Davokar.
Yeah. I don't really have any ideas of how to find someone that's not supposed to be here.
I bet they must be in the Grove. Let's try and go there tomorrow. At least, just if nothing else, then for the sightseeing. But if they're not in the grove, then maybe they've come in with the witches. Who knows? If I could ever deal with some council, it's right now.
Do you think
Because
there's anyone we trust enough to ask around?
The witches, maybe. The other thing is, depending on the information they give us, I'm not going to keep this quiet from the others for long. It's disingenuous at best.
It is, but well, we've been tasked with this quietly.
I know,
and I feel like we gave our word to do this task with the conditions laid out to us, and those conditions include a certain amount of discretion.
I just feel like we're within our rights to give them at least some information. That counts as discretion. Look, we'll wait, because maybe they'll say something. If we ever meet her, maybe we'll get some information that gives us better credence as to what we can say to our comrades. But doing this silently is just carrying yet another burden. And if our task from the pact takes us further into Davokar to maybe stem or dam up this tide of disaster that's probably rolling down the river towards us, I can't also bear the burden of having to lie to people who I need to trust with my life.
I can understand that perfectly well, Stio.
But let's make some time when it's light. Go and try and get to the grove. If that is my only bet. Otherwise, if we cannot find her, I hope she can find us.
I have another vague idea, I suppose. I mean, well, Theron was quite taken with those we met before. I don't really know how to tell him to track, but maybe I can.
Yes, you do.
Do I? Tell him how to track a specific thing that I've no way of.
Oh, well, no, I guess you know how to track down the Hall of 1,000 Tears.
Yeah.
It's just very expensive.
Yeah. But maybe I can set him sniffing around, see if he picks up anything he likes that isn't just bacon.
Yeah, everything's worth a shot at this stage. I don't want to leave camp on a mission into Dark Davokar without knowing whose side I'm supposed to be fighting on. Like, did we pick the wrong fight in that battle back there? Like, who's to know that... Oh, I don't know. Come on before these pints get warm.
I mean,
grab an armful of pints.
They may already be warm when they arrived on the bar.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can serve up the drinks to your companions. Is there any more kind of conversation we want to happen in the Longhouse, kind of planning who to go to for information and stuff like that? Or do we want to roll over to the next morning? It's up to you.
I think we probably need to figure out a plan of action.
Yeah.
So I feel that regardless of what happens, we should probably pick what direction we go into Davokar in.
Okay.
Dark Davokar.
I think I agree. We should pick somewhere to go. I think that's going to come down to deciding why we're here. Are we here just as a stopover because we've finished our job of helping Ganderald and we're going back to Thistlehold? Are we here because we want to find Symbar? Are we here because we're committed to trying to find Almendra, or for some other reason?
Here's my other reason. If the rumors of Symbar are true, it's going to be madness. Half of every youth in Ambria is going to run into the forest wearing nothing but a loincloth and carrying nothing but a flipping 2x4. Thousands, tens of thousands are going to die due to ill preparedness.
Yeah, it will be a bloodbath at best.
My goal is to stem the tide until we know so much more than we can even imagine. None of us are ready to set foot in Symbar. Can you name 3 of its kings? Can you speak any of its language? We're not ready. So we do what we always do. We try and stop people from getting hurt, or too many people from getting hurt.
And how do you propose to do that?
Don't know. A wise man once said, when you're in the desert and you're lost, one direction's as good as another. So if we have to rank those places that the Black Cloak told us about, I want to go take a look at that Ambrian splinter settlement, mostly because I've never heard of it before, and I kind of should have. The religious camp.
I don't know how we stop people going to Symbar, because there's only 2 things I can think of. One is that we stop people leaving Karvosti, which is not within our power to do. Or we find Symbar and stop other people entering it, which is not within our power to do. That leaves us Almendra, who was last seen heading for New Earthmore, right?
She was last seen. She was last seen handing the witch hammer to. You don't know is the witch hammer.
Okay, but she had said to Bartho that she wanted to go to New Earth.
Yeah, or that specifically that she wanted to speak to a leader who then shortly afterwards left for New Earthmore. You don't know if she got to speak to her or not.
No, but it is the unless she's still here on Karvosti somewhere, which seems unlikely. That's probably the sort of freshest lead we have for places where she's might go.
Yeah, or maybe if she spoke to a leader, maybe a leader would then know more information.
Yeah,
I think my mind comes to like a place of self-preservation amongst anything else. And of the 3 options that we were presented, 2 of them, the Fria Ligan and Yafron Isle, sounded incredibly dangerous. If I'm remembering this right, Elendra came out of the Fria Ligan site like
Almendra.
A shell of Almendra. Sorry, came out of that as as white as a sheet, a shell of a person. And when she went to Yafron Isle, there was talk about a horrible, horrible journey on the way there. And I'm not saying that the journey to New Earthmore would be pleasant, but we know that there's a settlement at the end of it, and we have a person to go and visit. We know the name of someone to go and visit there. Like, I think that represents the safest option at this point. The safest of 3 unsafe options.
It's a long way up the river, though. It's past the old tomb, if my understanding's correct from what he was saying.
Which, is somewhere that we've, traveled before. I don't know if that makes it a scarier proposition or less scary.
We traveled there before and it did not go well for us. But, I mean, I do accept that if we're looking for Almendra, that's the most likely place we're going to find her. And if she's not there, it's the most likely place we're going to find the most recent person she's spoken to. At the same time, I think if she's tried to get there. If she was around Karvosti, maybe hiding out, I'd give her a good chance of being alive. But if from what we've been told, she was in a bad way at Karvosti. If she alone has set out from Karvosti, already in a bad state, trying to get to New Earthmore, I think there's a reasonable chance we're never going to find her, essentially. But
if she is on Karvosti and she's alive, she's probably in the caves, which is not a place that we can get to until we go to Volgoma to find out where the entrance to the cave is, and to Fria Maroon to find out how to open that entrance. I assume this is why she went to those places. We don't have that information. Like, if she's here and if she's alive, we can't get her anyway. Like,
yeah, I do agree. It's our best option, but I think we need to be prepared for the possibility that Almendra has died. Like, if she's attempted to get to this place, I think we should be prepared that she hasn't made it. But if that's what we're going for, if we're going for Almendra rather than for Symbar, I think this is the right choice. I don't think we're going to prevent people trying to get to Symbar. The rumors of Symbar being found are already out there. We've seen people riding out of Karvosti having heard this. Presumably people before even what happened that night had heard about it. There's no way we're going to prevent a flood of people searching for Symbar, but at the moment, if we focus on Almendra, maybe that's an attainable goal.
Yeah. And I think anybody, as far as we know, the only person that has any concrete information on where Symbar is, if this is not just a ridiculous chase anyway, is Almendra. I would imagine that anybody that's serious about finding Symbar is going to be trying to find Almendra anyway. And it may be in our interests in hers if we found her first.
Yeah. And it's what we've said we'd do to Grulja. We'd find Almendra, we'd help Almendra. I also think that we spoke to Pyramai and he's not a good man. And I'm certain that he has in some way betrayed Almendra for this hammer, sorry. And I would like to understand exactly what he has done better so that we can perhaps do something about that. Because him being on the plateau doesn't seem helpful to Ambrians or to the clansmen. But that's a secondary point.
Do you know what strikes me? What if those co-opted clans people who we killed at the settlement and those Ambrian dress-up soldiers we helped kill here not 2 days ago are actually being hired and maintained by the same group? Maybe there's one group that has an interest in seeding more discontent between the two power blocks here.
It's possible. I don't know where we begin to find anything like that out.
And also, that's it seems like our immediate concerns are away from Karvosti, and if we're going to make a trip away from Karvosti, it will be presumably weeks before we return, and a whole lot could change in that time.
Aaron, you're very quiet.
I think that of the 3 locations we've been told, we have been told one person. And when we started this task, quest, whatever it is, every lead we followed so far with a person at the end of it, we have found either a dead body or an attack. And I fear I don't know. I suppose I worry that perhaps this new Earthmore could be a target. If someone is, I don't know, trying to remove traces of Vilmendra. It could be that Elida's in danger. It could be that the whole settlement's in danger.
And you're saying that's a reason to go or a reason to not go?
I'm saying that's a reason to go.
I think we're in agreement.
Oh, this is foolish. Well, I suppose we need to try and figure out with a little bit more detail where that place is.
Seems like the Ambrians may be the people to ask.
Or just some loose words around the tavern might give us some clues.
Barthos said they were heretical, didn't he? So maybe someone at the church would be able to advise us how to avoid it completely with exacting detail.
Or maybe some of the local clans.
Sorry?
Maybe some of the local clans will have trading agreements with them as well.
Or
you can't
perhaps
hide a settlement in Davokar.
Antom's friend at the church. This wasn't just an elaborate setup.
I mean, you gave us this NPC, Matt, and
scheming Beramites. Yeah. There's like, you also do think in general, like the two people you've gotten the most information out of since your arrival, other than Krulljoy, you suppose, to a certain degree, have definitely been Edrifin, the kind of self-appointed head of the pilgrim camp, who seems to know most, if not all, of the Ambrians who pass through the place. But also, additionally, Teresma, the hostess of the Longhouse, does seem to be someone in the know, as you might expect for the person who runs the local tavern. I just thought I'd throw them in the ring, just as additional ones that might occur to your characters. And as you sort of conclude this conversation, you've heard quite a few people pass the Longhouse over the course of the afternoon and the early evening that you've been in here. And now the door opens again, and a number of people troop through it. A good sort of, in fact, I'll give you an exact number, I think, of that. Will I? Maybe I will, and maybe I won't. I guess I won't. Oh my god, come on. No, okay. It doesn't give me that information. Never mind. I'd say around maybe 10 or so people troop into the Longhouse, and they're not too quiet about it, kind of like not shouting, but kind of talking and in a rather boisterous, relieved fashion. And they kind of tramp over to a table near the door. Steo, do you want to give me a cunning roll, please, at maybe a +2?
I don't think I do, but I will. Cunning is not terrible. 11, 12, 13. 17! Okay, no joy.
Never mind. Well, it's the alcohol getting to you, clearly. But as they sort of settle in, you see one individual in a large kind of bundled cloak and kind of traveling gear stand up and quite loudly tell the individuals, I don't want to have to say this again. 2 drinks. I'll get 1 round, and if you have the coin, you can buy another. No more than that. I don't need anyone drunk in the morning. It's quite a familiar voice. And walking through the patrons of the Longhouse towards the bar is none other than Captain Marvello. who, interestingly, the Witch Hammer has a picture of, like a portrait of, but completely different to how I have decided that he looks. So we won't be using that. Instead, Marvello is a tall, quite handsome man in his early 50s. He's dark-skinned with sort of relatively tightly cropped curly hair and quite styled goatee beard. His gear looks immaculate for someone who's been traveling through the paths of even the roads of Davokar. It's got nary a splash of mud on it. Not through a kind of pristine arrogance, but because from long experience, especially your experience, Theo, Marvello is a man who likes things kept neat and tidy and precise. Are we in any way trying to conceal ourselves from Captain Marvello? I can't imagine that you would, but...
Not at all. In fact, probably quite the opposite.
Okay. Marvello sees kind of you sat over in a group, kind of wrinkles his brow in surprise, and then kind of gives a tight smile to you all before sort of looking back over his shoulder at the table where he's from, and his brow crinkles again in concern. He holds a kind of gentle hand up to you, leans over to the bar, kind of clearly gives some kind of order, turns around and beckons at his table, and a woman dressed in Ordo Magica robes strides over. He shares a quick word with her and then strides over to your table and pulls up a stool. Unexpected.
Captain, you look like you're on business.
I am on business. And you?
Well, initially we came here on pleasure, but are the rumors true about the military at Thistlehold?
Which rumors?
Apparently there are quite a build-up there.
There are troop movements. Nothing a city guard captain would be told details of.
And what are you doing?
What are you doing here?
We're adventurers, sellswords, treasure hunters. This is where we're meant to be. You're a captain of the guard of Thistlehold in Karvosti.
What treasure are you hunting?
There's plenty to go around in Davokar.
We were doing some Ordo Magica business on the road up here, and well, as it's winter, we decided to wait until the thaw before we returned.
Literal sightseers, although they're not letting me see all the sights.
Well, you do find yourselves in places at exciting times, don't you?
We seem to make a habit of it.
Oh, so there must be some kind of moot then, given all the witches have arrived.
The keepers are here.
Great deal of them.
Are you secretly a witch, Marvello?
The last time I looked.
You have to admit it looks strange though. All the way up here with your business face on.
Aye, well, I trust that anyone who might know who I am wouldn't tell another soul.
I see no reason to continue trusting that instinct.
Now, Alindra, we're pretty much even with the captain, aren't we?
You're saying we're not discreet, Theo. That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying, well, there's no reason for us to betray the purposes of the good captain here. I don't think he's up here to start a war.
I didn't suggest he was.
Oh, my apologies.
Around this time of year, winter does damage around the forest. It opens up new avenues, new ruins for investigation. Sometimes there are multiple groups going to the same places, they end up clashing. Even if there is no personal grudge, there may be a professional rivalry that needs to be maintained for reasons outside of their control. Be careful out there in Davakar. Me and my men go west tomorrow. I suggest others keep out of our way for now. He stands up, nods to you, not unfriendly, and walks off.
What was that?
West. The lake?
Towards the lake.
No.
Do you think it's possible that the guard at Thistlehold have come to the same conclusion as you, Steo? That word has somehow got down there and they've come up here to try to keep the peace?
Marvello's not a bloody treasure hunter. Some politics going on here. I can smell it.
This is far outside their remit, though.
I don't understand what they would be doing here that the Rangers couldn't do themselves.
Well, if there are troops at Thistlehold, then it seems that the very ground has shifted underneath us somewhat. But still, Marvello's no treasure hunter. This is politics. And he said that he should arrive the same day as the holders. It just stinks.
I don't know what to make of it, and he seems disinclined to tell us.
Well, if he's going west, maybe he's going to tackle Volgoma himself. Maybe he has his own, I say he, whoever he's working for now, Night Pitch or worse, have their own reasons to head out that direction. Probably distinctly related to our reasons. And honestly, all the more reason why I want to go east.
Night Pitch does have the witch working with him. I'm sure she knows some of these rumors. Things must get back to her.
The attackers from the other night, did they say they were recruited in Thistlehold or Indaros?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me double check. You know what? I think it might have been Indaros. No, they were hired in Thistlehold. Yeah.
Maybe he's chasing something about, I don't know, something about that.
Yeah. But surely he'd be staying here. Why head west?
Like you said, well, who was it? If you said earlier, we're not the only people to have got this rumor. Maybe I was a fool to think we could staunch the flow, but Marvello knows what he's doing, and I don't want to get in his way.
I mean, he implied he was up here to keep the peace between rival bands of treasure hunters, and if he's doing that for the reasons that we think he's doing that because he's heard the same things that we have, then I am happy to leave that in his hands. It was never our job to try to manage that situation.
I don't think we have any favors we can call in with him either.
No.
I think if anything, we may owe him.
Good. Then we stay out of his way. Hope he forgets about it.
So I guess the plan is to try and find more information on the exact location of wherever Alida went.
New Earthmore.
Okay, so who can we ask?
Should have asked him. He would have known. Go and ask the barkeep, someone. I think I'm done talking for the evening. Cradling a half-empty pint.
I can go and make some inquiries.
Do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you going to go make inquiries with the barkeep?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Now here's where I'm going to introduce a new mechanic, folks. As you go to talk to Teresma. So there's a new mechanic that arrives with the witch hammer, and it is called, he said, forgetting what it's actually called, scheming. What scheming does, as we move forward into maybe a grander, more political story than we've been used to, although the seeds of that were definitely sown in Wrath of the Warden, factions are now a thing. These factions have their own desires, their own likes, their own dislikes, and exactly how you factor into that is something that's going to develop as we move through the story. What this fundamentally means is that when you're interacting with a member of that faction, you get a plus or a minus, depending on what that faction thinks of you, what you've recently done for that faction or against that faction. And then on top of that, there is also a, and I won't, I'll leave it to you to kind of discover these stats over time. But essentially, there's the ability when you're interacting with the faction to replace persuasive with another stat. The idea is that you're not like directly using that stat, but you're using it in a way like if you were using persuasive and instead you just go, okay, well, I'll use cunning instead, then you're kind of, you're talking in a cunning way or whatever. If it's strong, maybe you're, standing firm and like using your strength to emphasize your points and stuff like that. I won't tell you which stat each faction respects over persuasive, but you can try them. And, and each time you try it, I'll either say, no, use persuasive, or I'll go, yeah, you found it. Because that's fun, isn't it? That we have to kind of discover what each faction likes. So let's use that. And yeah, the modifier, and I'll tell you what the modifier is every time, obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to roll. And you can find out kind of what these factions think of you. And I think we'll use it in a relatively low stakes environment first like this. And we'll use it with Teresma as a representative, because she's quite an important person on the plateau, of the faction of the clans. There are a number of factions defined by the book. I've added a couple because it felt weird to me that they didn't have one. The clans is actually one of them. And they each have leaders and representatives, and as I say, the likes and dislikes. The leader of the clans, of course, being High Chieftain Tharaban. So Mike, let's talk to Teresma. Would you like to use persuasive or give another stat a try?
I will try.
What do you think will impress the clans?
I mean, there is that consideration, but there is also there's a 1 point difference between persuasive and the next other stat that I could use.
Sure,
so
it
might all be academic. I don't know. I think that maybe being sort of sympathetic and respectful might go down well with the clans. So maybe I don't know. Can I use any of these? Could I make a case for being vigilant or
absolutely.
Okay.
So you pick one, and I'll straight up tell you, probably in a humorous fashion, whether or not it takes hold, and if it doesn't, you could just go and use persuasive.
Okay, well, I will go for vigilant because it is a better stat of mine, and just being observant of the situation around me seems like maybe a thing. So, do I need a modifier for this, or do I roll?
You will need a modifier, but you tell me You tell me how you're using vigilant in this. Are you observing something about the bar or the woman herself, or kind of
okay, well, actually that is maybe a good starting point. So I don't think I've had Antom's had many interactions with Teresma. So before we start this, could you tell me a little bit about to Uzma?
I'd be
her
delighted to tell you
appearance?
extensively about the person whose thing they only know about them is their name and that they run the longhouse.
Sure, but
yeah,
like,
sure, no, yeah.
Ambrian or barbarian.
She's with the clan, so she's a barbarian.
Yeah.
From her clan tattoos, you can tell that she is an Odav.
Okay.
She's maybe an older woman in her mid-50s, sort of quite lean and athletic. Work with something there.
Okay, well, I guess I would maybe, in that case, make reference to like her Odav tattoos, and maybe then talk about how we just saw the Odav witch coming in and striking up a conversation around that, and then talking about whether she's like has been in capacity for a while, whether she's coming for a little bit longer, and then sort of like move that into a wider conversation about Davokar.
You start to immediately kind of note her tattoos and try and lead it into a conversation about the keepers. And she just glances down at her tattoos and says, "You have eyes, son priest. I am Odav. What of it?" Just vigilant is not the stat, but you can still use persuasive. And it's not on an individual basis, it is on a group basis. So some things they like or dislike, I've just chosen to take whatever the majority of the group is or isn't. And your current modifier with the clans is a grand total of 0.
Okay.
There are things influencing that, though. There are 2 things. You've got a +1 from something and a -1 from the other.
Okay. I will roll persuasive, and it is 50-50 because my persuasive is 10. And I roll a 7.
Okay. So what precise information are you trying to get here?
I think I'm...
Oh, you've suddenly gone on mute, Mike, as you started that sentence.
I think I just accidentally tapped that. Myself and my companions, we have been learning a little bit more about some places since we've been in Karvosti. A few names have come up. We're just curious to know a little bit more about them. We want to know if we need to visit one of these places. And one of the names that has been mentioned is New Earthmore. And I don't know if you know.
She's starting to look quite amused.
Okay.
We carry on.
Have I said something funny?
You are the 4th Ambrian in my tavern today. Some priest asking me about New Earthmore. Would you like to know about the Isle next?
Right. I think I see what's happening here. And there's a 3rd place I'm sure that you've been asked about as well.
I have, but it's a New Earthmore you want to know about. Where those of you who don't worship the big glowing circle in the sky have decided to make their home.
Yes, there are people who have very different views on those sorts of things.
Go talk to your chief pilgrim. He knows where it is.
Chief Pilgrim, thank you for your time and your assistance.
Are you going to buy a drink?
Of course. Another round.
Of course. She pours it out for you.
I will return carrying drinks. And I will let everyone know that, there have been a number of inquiries into the 3 places which we seek to visit.
Well, that confirms that any deal with Brother Bartho is more or less worthless. People already know about these places. Even if we made a deal for him to not talk to people, the information is already out there.
Yeah.
He's
money well not spent, as my parents used to say.
It does also highlight the importance of us moving pretty quickly with whatever decision
Do
we
not
make. And
rush the forest, otherwise we will be yet more corpses beneath the trees.
Let's try to find where we're going before the day is done. And let's set off tomorrow.
Yeah.
she advised to speak to the pilgrim. Was it pilgrim chief?
Edrefin is almost certainly who she meant.
Yeah. So
can I tell whether the look of disappointment on Steo's face is due to the fact that we might not be getting to go to the Grove?
I mean, that's 100% it, but you might need to make a roll to confirm it.
Cool. I mean, Steo was quite vocal about wanting to go to the Grove before, and we didn't go. So, but I'll make a roll if needs be.
Sure, make a vigilant roll against his discreet.
Right.
Which is +5, Stephen.
Right, I rolled a 20, so...
Oh, wow. You cannot tell the machinations of this mind.
Well, I've done this in games before, and it's setting us up for just constant hilarity about something. But, Stephen, do you want to pick something that's definitely not why Steo is disappointed and become convinced that that's why he's disappointed?
He wants to set off tonight under the cover of darkness.
Sure.
And he's disappointed at the delay.
Right. If we're going around searching and gathering information today, and you're all sold on leaving on a journey that would normally take weeks to prepare tomorrow, then if I want to go and see the Grove, I need to go today, and I also need to go and buy some stuff.
I mean, we certainly don't have weeks to prepare. If we spend weeks preparing, we may as well just head back to Thistlehold. Things are moving much too quickly for that.
I would rather die in Thistlehold than in the forest. Just rushing. The last time we went this far into the dark, we were heading to an Ordo Magica encampment. We had clear directions of where we were going to. We were expected, and we knew what we were doing, or at least we thought we did.
But isn't the point of going to talk to Edrefin to try and get this information?
Yeah. Look, I'm not required to speak to Edrefin, and I have work to do. I'm gonna go and get myself some throwing steel.
Okay, but you can wait to leave until tomorrow morning, right? You're not going to disappear on us in the night.
My friend Alindra, would I stay here the rest of my days? I would prefer it to going into that forest, especially going into that forest alone.
So you will wait until the morning?
I will wait until at least the morning, and if I can convince you all to wait longer, I will do that also.
I promise Alindra I will keep a close eye on him and make sure he does not leave Kavosti.
We're going to burn 3 episodes on this.
Are you also going to buy some throwing weapons, Arendar?
I will go to keep an eye on Steo.
That's fair. Very fair.
You probably, just to flag up, that you probably can't find a place to buy throwing weapons at night, which is when we are now. So that might have to wait until the morning when the marketplace opens. But
okay, well let me change my tack then. We're not leaving until I've had a chance to reprovision. It's just it's weeks worth of walking up that river. If you want to leave at first dawn you want to leave at first light to get ahead of all the other treasure hunters who know where we're going, you're walking to your grave.
So the day after tomorrow?
I mean, I'd love the day after tomorrow, but I think it's going to be a fight I'll lose given how thirsty we are for a quick departure.
can we just speak to the person who knows more about this place and then decide when we're going to leave.
This is feeling increasingly like that bickering conversation you have when everyone's half cut. Where the one sober person, as I know from experience, is there going, if we just get a little bit of extra information about what we're talking about, then all this can be avoided. So with that in mind, were we going to talk to Edrefin tonight? He's usually around.
Yeah, it's not late, is it? It's
no. It's dark, but it's winter, so it's if in real time, it's probably about 8 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
Okay. He's not in here, which means he's probably at the Pilgrim Camp, or I guess sometimes at the Sun Temple. Are we going as a group?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he's used to seeing us together.
He is. And as you make your way out of the longhouse into the rather cold and frosty night on top of the plateau, it's definitely a lot warmer in the tavern. You make your way over the kind of, maybe 10-minute walk or so across the plateau to the Pilgrim Camp, where a number of people have fires and kind of torches burning, and people are kind of huddled around them where they're not in their tents, shielding themselves from the cold. You can see Edrefin kind of sort of hustling his way around a large group of fire where people are cooking things, kind of handing out bits and pieces of vegetables and grains to help with the food. The people seem appreciative of his presence and the food he's donating, but slightly less appreciative of his sort of slightly motherly advice on exactly how they should cook it to get the maximum amount from the ingredients. But regardless, if you approach him, he will look over and wave at you with a sort of nervous cheeriness, and then take a couple of steps over to where you are. Oops, that should be full screen. And start kind of engaging with you. How was your trip? You found Bartho, I see.
Barely. It was quite a fight to get him out of there alive.
Some kind of conflict at the outpost. He said barbarians, but do you think a reprisal?
Barbarians and a Lind one.
Stay on the plateau. It is safer here.
We weren't able to figure out whether it was a reprisal, but there's a lot of things happening in this part of the forest, all seemingly at the same time.
Yes, there does seem to be. Is it true that there are rangers and guards and an Ambrium captain?
Oh, we were sworn to secrecy on that.
Oh, nothing if not discreet. I will not press you if you have made some kind of oath.
That's what I said. Yeah. What? Marvello gave us nothing. So I'm willing to bet that other people have already come and asked you about this, but we're looking to find the location of a few points of interest in the forest.
Are you? I know there are a number of places people are. Are you going after a leader?
This was the plan. New Earthmore. We're still trying to find Almendra.
Please do find the girl and see if she's. I wouldn't want her to meet the same fate as the others. I was quite close to her when she came here, you know.
Yeah, well, this investigation has certainly thrown up its fair share of bodies, and we're trying our best to ensure that there are no more. Do you know where this place is?
I have some notion of. Well, yes. Yes, I know. And if you, I know I held firm before and required you to pay me for some food, but if you promise that you're going to try and keep a leader from harm, I will tell you everything I know.
I'll look to the others to see if anybody seems to be thinking otherwise, but
Do you know a leader well?
Quite well. She was here for a year, although a great deal of that she spent in the cliff with the witches.
The witches allowed her into the cliff?
Yeah.
Allowed her, they fair enough strong-armed her in.
For what reason?
A leader was a young, gifted mystic from New Earthmore. She had fled there. Well, I think she found her parents quite overbearing and the expectations on her. Gifted, as I say. The witches took her in, and then not so long ago she made her way out and left. Quickly, back home, back up the river. I don't know if she made it, if truth be told. But she was quite capable.
Have many other people been asking about her or about New Earthmore?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I've told some people where it is, but I'll tell you more than that, because you have a concern for a vulnerable young girl, I can tell. A good Ambrian, even though her beliefs were, well, I'm sure Prios shines on her anyway, whether she wants it or not.
We don't know what things we are and are not in control of and able to influence in this situation. There are a lot of things happening, but one thing that we think we may be able to do is help to protect these people.
And if you make that promise, all I ask is that you do your best. You're good folk, I can tell. I see a lot of people here. Not all have such good intentions as you.
I can't speak for my colleagues, but I'm willing to make that promise.
You have my word that I will do my best.
And I will take the word of the heroes of the sinkhole. Yes, I know.
We're never going to live that one down.
Look, come with me. He hustles over to the edge of the pilgrim camp where there's a torch planted in the ground, and he reaches into the bag. He always carries at his side, rustles around for a while, and then pulls out a large linen map. A map of North Ambria and the south of Davakar, because I've tried to avoid sort of using a map for these purposes, because a lot of the maps in the book just are covered in where everything is, which I don't necessarily want you to know. But ultimately, we're going to have to look at a map because there's a lot of complexity here. So, you know what? We're going to look at the map, and I've just removed the key. So there are a lot of locations on it. Assume where there's a number, there's like a little marking on the map that something is there. And then that should be fine, right? He unfurls this linen map and shows you this. So, with one kind of dirty, slightly cracked nail, he points on the map here, where number 5 is, and says, "This is where we are. This is Karvosti. I'm sure you know that already. And over here, this is New Earthmore."
Oh my!
That's great.
Prios's teeth.
Very audibly sighs at the distance.
It's all the way up the river Malgamore here. And you'll be going upriver, but for this depth into Davakar, it's actually quite safe. You have a number of famed ruin sites all along the riverbanks up here. Here's the Sun Temple. There are regular patrols all along the river. I'm not saying it's safe, but there's worse places you could be. You could travel by foot. You can travel by boat. Honestly, they take the same amount of time because you're paddling upriver. But I know regular travelers who swear that traveling on the water is safer. Less chance of being jumped from the trees. Now, if you wanted to do that, I can tell you how. What you'll need to do is hire yourself some paddle boats, you see. You can do that from down here at Jakar, a bit of a trek, or here, the Arch Bridge. You must have passed it on your way here if you came from Thistlehold. It's the it was a settlement of the Odavs, and now it's the settlement of the Odavs. Their capital, I suppose you could call it, in a way, if they can be considered having a good, proper country. Here, you should be able to hire boats. Or in Jakar, to be safer. That's what I'd advise. Now, as for New Earthmore itself, well, word has it they worship a strict and unforgiving incarnation of the Earth Mother, which I suppose explains why they decided to leave Ambria and the oversight of the church. These free settlements that you get out in Davakar, for as long as they last, they tend to be hostile towards strangers. I've heard that New Earthmore is no different, or that's how a leader told it anyway. And almost everyone who claims to have gone there for help or shelter says that the settlers wouldn't let them through the gates. I don't know the size of it. Any settlement that lasts any time at all in Davakar needs to be large to defend itself against predators, elves, others. Probably more than 200 or so people. And if a leader is alive, she is there. As I say, I took care of her for a while here when she first arrived, and then she was taken in by the witches, taken into their dwelling for months and months. Apart from the witches themselves, she might even be the person who knows most about its layout inside the cliff, what lurks down there.
Do you think the witches could be of any help in aiding us getting in there? I'm concerned if we go all the way up the river and just say, hi, we know a leader, that may not be enough.
Well, the residents of New Earthmore will have no love for witches, I'll tell you that. I don't know. I couldn't say to that.
Okay.
I mean, no one's been allowed to even talk to the witches for the last day or so anyway. The only people who are allowed in are the older ones who arrive. And there's been... there was the one on the big creature. There was one in a litter that arrived. There was one that swooped down as some kind of bird and then took on their true human form. Unnatural.
An audience with them is likely to be even harder now than usually.
I wouldn't necessarily advise trying. Don't stir the pot.
Understood.
Do you know? Go ahead, Aaron.
How actively hostile would this settlement likely to be to our good father here?
And our ex-Templar.
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. Perhaps taken over Cloak.
I was thinking along those lines.
I think they'd be unlikely to kill you unless they felt you were a threat. But I really don't know.
Do you know how long it will take to journey up the river?
He looks at the map for 20 seconds or so with a thoughtful expression on his face. I think you're looking at 2 weeks or just under, assuming you don't get any kind of delay. That does seem It looks about twice for, obviously, in all this conversation, and Stephen wouldn't even particularly know this, I think, this journey upriver, up the Malgamore, has been taken before by this group, but only as far as about here, he said, pointing to the around there. So about halfway. And that took about a week.
Okay.
So about 2 weeks sounds about right.
Yeah, I suppose we came on foot from Thistlehold to Carvosti with a couple of sort of pauses on the way, and that was maybe a week, right?
I think it was a bit more
than a week, but
all told, I think it was about 2 weeks. Yeah, but you did take quite a couple of really long stops.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
friend, can I ask, while you have this here, some other places that we have been told to consider?
I know. I'm trying not to tell everyone. I don't want people out there, but I trust you and you know what you're doing. I'd still advise you to stay, but up here in the north of Volgoma is Yepheron Isle. But I've heard it is cloaked by some form of witchcraft. You may need to ask around to learn more. Up here, this is the ruined palace. It is beyond the Sun Temple. That may be a good stop for you. There are many there who would help good servant Cyprios. That is all I know of those places. They are ruins. They are dangerous places in the forest. You shouldn't go. But if you will, then at least you should know where they are.
That was my
thinking.
Don't get
lost. Well. Never get lost.
Would a theoretical party heading out to Yepheron set off from here by boat straight across the lake, or track through the forest around the edges?
Maybe. There are a number of settlements, Zarek settlements, along the west bank of the lake where you could find guidance or maybe hire boats to take you across. From what I hear, I wouldn't set off from the east bank. All those islands, dangerous, odd things on them. Try and spend the least amount of time as possible on the lake itself. There are ancient barbarian places there, bound to be holding corruption and blight. But as I say, don't just seek my counsel on these other places. Find more. They are more dangerous by far than Earthmore, I'll tell you that. Even with the good father's robes. He takes the linen map and sort of folds it up very, very carefully and pops it into his bag.
Edrifin, before you put it away, what's this directly to the west?
That's a very good question, John. Let me find out.
Directly to the west
of here. Say if a party were to strike out directly to the west in the morning, where would they end up?
Sorry, I'm not following you, John. The lake.
Oh,
what?
You're pointing at the number 4 on the map.
It's the lake.
Yes.
Right. Oh, it is the lake. Okay.
So it has to label things differently. So
fair enough. Fair enough.
So the guard are headed for Yepheron. That sounds like a suicide mission.
Or something else to the west we haven't heard of yet.
What's the plan now? Are we going to bed or?
Edrifin, the witch who you said came in on a bird as a bird, do you know which clan she's from?
I don't know. I try not to get involved in barbarian things, especially where witches are concerned.
Okay. Thank you for this information. You've been very, very helpful.
Well, I wish you well out there. If you must go, you should be safe. Go armed with knowledge.
We will. do our best. Although time is also of the essence, I'm sure you're aware.
He nods and sort of looks like this entire conversation has started to make him uncomfortable, thinking too much about the forest that surrounds the safety of the plateau, and he sort of gives you a nervous little smile, another wish of good luck, and scampers off back towards the meal swiftly being brewed at the campfire.
Twice the distance to the temple. Okay, at least it's along the river, as he said.
The other distances weren't short.
No, it's
a long journey wherever we go.
And his point about the river is a good one. It's probably, at least it's safe on one side. Do we go to Archbridge, pick up some boats from the Odav?
It's certainly much closer than Jakar.
Yeah.
Jakar didn't go too well for us last time either. I think Archbridge is a better option.
I feel a little bit obliged to send some business their way on account of FNA.
I think Jakar is also an Odav settlement, but Archbridge fits our needs.
Jakar is Ambrian.
Oh, okay.
Like Odavs was certainly involved. Odavs and Zarex was certainly involved in they had settlements there before, but it's been developed as an Ambrian settlement.
Okay. If we're going for 2 weeks, I think tomorrow is going to be primarily about trying to get whatever supplies we can muster on Karvosti.
Yes, please.
4 weeks. You know better than me whether it's possible to find food that's safe to eat in the forest or whether we need to take all of it. But yeah, we need to prepare.
I would also like those. Let's have the older or the more experienced out in Davakar members of the party. I'll actually make you make this roll. Can everyone, the 3 of you at the bottom, also make a cunning roll for me, please?
Yep, make it. Yep.
You might want to have a look at those licenses that Gandaral got you.
Oh, that's great. Looks at his license and looks at how long it lasts.
It lasts till the end of winter.
Did Anton have a license? I can't remember. Because
yes, Gandaral sourced the license. He just had a number of licenses to hand out, so yeah. We'll just say he also had one for you. Because I think you agreed to do stuff, and then maybe he didn't even know until yeah. So yeah, we'll say you have a license. That's fine.
Okay.
Till the end of winter, you'd say that a month is pushing the end of winter, but as long as you don't get horribly bogged down, it'll probably last you out to New Earthmore and back.
But the license presumably expiry date is time by which you're supposed to return to Thistlehold, right?
No, it's just if you get caught in the forest by the rangers and you don't have a license that's in date,
okay,
they're going to be grumpy.
So we could just about squeak it back to Karvosti and then either try to get new licenses there. I don't even know if that's possible. Or
you will not be able to get licenses in Karvosti. You will, however, and you don't need a license if you're on the road.
Okay.
It's only if you're out in the wilds of Davakar. You will almost. Well, you know what? Askarai, why don't you give me a cunning roll? Let's say +4.
Okay. I will need a 14 or less. I rolled an 18, so I fail.
Yeah. You don't know where you can get licenses outside of Ambria, but there must be somewhere where, there are individuals selling those licenses out in Davakar. Otherwise, people would have to come back every time. But you don't actually know where.
I suppose I'd guess somewhere Ambrian. I would guess
Ambrian, or if you'd guess it would be an Ambrian place, and if not an Ambrian place, it would be an Odav place, because the Odavs are so tightly allied with the Ambrians to the point where they're essentially like a client clan at this stage.
Okay.
Is it worth us having that flexibility on the license if we decide that we also want to strike out north of the Sun Temple on the way back? Let's imagine that our trip to New Earthmore goes very well. We get what we need. Is it not better to do one trip and tick off two things that are relatively close rather than come back and strike out again, which is going to cost us another license anyway?
So I am once again flogging a dead mule here, but we can go back to Thistlehold. We can get better licenses. We can strike out north from Thistlehold, cross Cylindra's Hope if there's anything left of it, and join the Malgamore directly north.
Going back to Thistlehold is another 2 weeks. Back to Thistlehold, back to the Malgamore is another 2 weeks journey minimum. At which point, why even bother? We're not going to get anywhere before other treasure hunters or other, I don't even know, people seeking Almendra, people seeking Symbar. It defeats the purpose to go back to Thistlehold at this point.
If there's anyone in Carvosti that can tell us where to get licenses, it's Edrifin. He's right over there. We just finished talking to him. Should we go and ask him?
Sure.
Yeah.
I walk over to Edrifin.
Sure.
Do you know, Edrifin, where it is possible to buy licenses in Davakar?
Oh, the closest place, yes. The Queen's Rangers have an outpost where you can buy them at Archbridge.
Ah, okay. Thank you very much. I will relay this information back.
Problem solved.
Perfect.
And you can indeed just get an extension to a license if they like you, if they don't suspect you.
Costs money and not looking too suspicious. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I suggest we get what provisions we can tomorrow and see if we can make it to Archbridge.
Archbridge is only about an hour past the VR outpost, which I think I said was 3 hours away.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably about a 4-hour walk to Archbridge. So as long as you're finished up in Carvosti by noon, it should be a safe daytime trip down to Archbridge. And you didn't see it. I think I said that you saw like the smoke of the settlement just off the path, but you didn't see the settlement itself. But it looked of considerable size. So
I think we have the beginnings of a plan. Steo, think of it this way. If we ended up back in Thistlehold within a week, we would somehow end up in Davakar within 2 weeks of that. That is how this would pan out.
I don't doubt it, but you know that in the equation of anyone's transit through this forest, as soon as you add haste, the outcome is death.
We go at our own pace when we're in the forest, but the sooner we start the journey, the sooner it's over.
I think that the conversation about Far and Maroon is not something that we should seriously consider until after we've been to New Earthmore. We'll take stock then. Like, I don't think we should pack extra rations. I don't think we should look at extended licenses just for that purpose. Let's get to New Earthmore and then see what's possible.
I agree that we shouldn't pack extra rations. I do think that we should extend the licenses.
If we're going through the settlement anyway, then it will do no harm. All it's going to cost us is Thala.
Yeah.
Right, I need to set up my tent, and if any of you so much as try and stop me from going to visit that grove tomorrow before we leave, you can find another spearsman.
It's
Just
fine.
came here to do some sightseeing, for the love of Prios.
Do we have time to visit the grove?
Ascarai, let the man go. He wants to go and see his grove.
I don't understand.
You and I will go shopping, Ascarai.
If you'd rather see the grove than get provisions, let that be on your head as you travel through Davacast. Yeah.
Theo, I will buy your. I don't have any money. I will
give you the money, for God's. Would someone just let me go and look? We've been here nearly a month.
I will take your money and I will buy your provisions for you.
Get me some throwing knives as well.
Steo is
northern ones.
I'll see if I can find you something for that blood pressure.
Steo is drunk and grumpy,
thirsty for grove.
Oh, I love and hate that. We're getting that on a t-shirt. So let's see. I saw Mike pick up his phone there and and type something. And I thought, what is he just writing that down? But no, turns out he was posting in chat. And he was posting in chat the word Grover, which is it's disappointing on a number of levels, but we don't have time to get into each of them tonight. Oh my word. Okay. Right, let's move overnight, because I feel like all that's left for tonight is whichever of you share a tent with Steo are going to listen to him grumble in annoyance for about an hour before he starts to snore, and then we will open up with the next morning. So there are a number of things, I believe. So we wanted to go to what passes for a kind of marketplace on Carvosti, which is whatever merchants are there set up their stalls and their caravans outside where the Longhouse is, where a number of other buildings are, including Cruel Jaws, sort of monster hunting emporium, which might be the best place to find your throwing weapons, and all your other supplies on the various merchants outside. And then Steo is also going to try and take a trip to the Grove. Is anyone going with Steo on that trip?
I'm going.
Arendar, as I thought. So let's take care of the getting the supplies quickly. And honestly, what I would do is, if we generally just look in equipment and buy whatever you want to buy, whether it's new travel packs or whatever we're doing with that, that's absolutely fine. And getting your food supplies, I'll let you take care of that with the money you have. I'm absolutely fine with that. The only thing I want to have a quick look at is maybe the so a throwing weapon. Each throwing weapon costs if it's a basic throwing weapon, costs 2 thaler and does 1d6 damage. And it's up to you what it is. It doesn't matter what it is.
No, there's a good chance these can be recovered after combat.
Yeah. Far more likely than an arrow or something. Like way more likely. Yeah. I'd only basically say they're broken if you roll a 20 or something like that.
I think I'll take a brace of, I don't know, is 6 a good number? That's kind of like...
Yeah, you got a bunch of backups there, yeah.
So I'll spend 6 thaler on that and get some kind of tribesman forged steel daggers that look pretty mean and have kind of an interesting design because of the weight balance on them.
Sure. Absolutely. I am happy with that. So that'll set you back 12 thaler. Okay, and then as for the rest of you, is there anything really specific you want that you want to kind of role play out or ask if you can find, or is it literally just a case of making sure all your provisions and your packs are all up to date and up to spec.
I think the only thing that I would like to do is to maybe like buy a small flask skin container of wine and give it to the guy whose name I've forgotten, who just gave us all that great information. Edrefin, yeah, it's like it's a thanks for like his assistance and his sort of discretion at not speaking to other people.
He is very grateful for this and says it will help keep him warm until spring arrives.
Does anyone sell maps of Davika, even without all the markings on Edrefin's map has? But is there anyone on Kavasi selling like?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, there will be. Yeah, let me find a rough price for that for you. Like, there won't be a price listed, but just as a sort of notion, I would say that is going to cost you. See, I think the price of this will be somewhat escalated because it's a captive market, right? So I think that's going to cost you a thaler.
Okay, I think Askar would
a decent quality map.
Gladly pay a thaler, and once he gets it, immediately mark as close as he can the places that Edrefin has shown us on the map.
It's not identical to Edrefin's map, but it's certainly kind of recognizable from there. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess food's interesting in the sense of I guess that's going to come under like camp life per day. There's just the costs of like, does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. Yeah.
No,
camp life. No.
I think camp life is for if you come across a camp. That is how much it would cost you.
I see. Just to rent. So, okay.
There is trying to get a sense for rations. I'm pretty sure somewhere. I can't remember where it is. We can look. Let's not work it out on stream. It's boring for people. So let's.
The short version is that I think Elindra may well end up spending all of the money that she has.
Sure.
on rations.
Well, I think the least that Steo can do if you're buying stuff for him is to pay for your rations.
Yeah. Well, no, we just we're talking about 30 days rations, and Elindra's got 13 thaler to her name, 12 thaler to her name.
I don't think it'll cost you all that much, but like we'll find it later after stream anyway, and we'll sort it out between this.
Fine.
So with that in mind, and it doesn't sound like anyone's got any specific demands for things. Why don't we go to Steo and Arendar? So I'm assuming, are you just heading for the Grove?
Yes, determinedly.
Okay.
I'm taking Farron with us.
Okay, just so people know what that means. So the Grove is that kind of leftmost part of the plateau that you can see there on the image, up on the higher escarpment that can be ascended only, or at least only for you, by the huge trunks of trees that are leant against, leaning up to the old Sun Temple. So that's how you have to go up. It's morning, which means that the Sun Temple is starting their devotions. You can hear kind of like relatively thin numbers of people singing from inside. I take it we're not stopping in there or anything. We are just proceeding straight onto the Grove.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay. The Grove, as you start traveling further along that higher escarpment on the plateau, kind of looms ahead of you, a great shadowed mass of extremely tall trees that sort of are set out oddly on this edge of the plateau, and kind of strikes you that it almost seems to have a fairly defined line cutting across it, that you're not sure why the trees haven't grown further on. Maybe they were felled. Maybe this grove is maintained in some way, but there's no sign of anyone having chopped down trees or done any cutting or coppicing any time in the recent past. You have to say, as you approach the grove, you are involuntarily becoming less and less keen on the idea of entering into what seems to be quite a shadowed intimidating environment inside there. There are very little in the way of bird calls or animal sounds coming from inside the grove, only a kind of soft, haunting whistling as the wind cresting over the plateau gusts through between the trees.
It's spookier than I thought from the stories. So, there's supposed to be a thing that lives here, and sometimes it comes out. And apparently it's an angel or a spirit. I get different stories every time I hear about it, but it's the one thing I wanted just to come and see. Just to come and see it.
Is there... I mean, can we go in?
I can. I don't think I want to go too far in. But I definitely want to just lurk for a minute. There's no kind of visitor center for this, Matt, or path through
No, there definitely isn't. Nothing like that. Yeah, you don't see anyone else around here. The last people you saw were lurking outside of the Sun Temple.
I think I will go up to the grove, and I will go kind of maybe around the first tree, and take a minute of kind of, I suppose, meditation and sort of like childlike glee, kind of trying to stare off to see if I can see any moving shapes or anything further in or something like that. But I'm definitely not going to be kind of trying to bisect it or anything like that.
Absolutely. How about you, Arindar?
I'm gonna go a little bit into the trees. I'm gonna look around. I'm gonna look down at Farron and say, "What do you think?"
Well, you said you were going a little way into the trees. You're going to take a few paces, and then you do indeed turn around to look at Farron. Farron is backed around 10 feet away from the edge of the trees, back arched, hackles up, hissing at the grove.
Ah. Steo?
Yeah?
I don't think Farron likes it here.
Steo, could you... well, no, both of you give me a vigilant roll, please. Maybe about -3.
Nope.
Come on, please, just for me. Dice up. No. God damn it.
That's what I rolled.
Is this worth an XP? Is this worth an XP?
It's entirely up to you.
I think I'm gonna do it. This is I'm on holiday. I'm gonna do it. One more try at the low roll. Sorry, it was -3 on vigilant.
But so if yeah, -3, yeah.
Vigilant 5 or less, because this was my first roll of the day, so it's failed. And it's a fail.
Yeah. So you both catch something moving at the very edge of your vision. Something that, with a very brief glimpse, seemed very, very tall. The wind picks up through the trees and raises from a whistle to a howl. And both of you hear what sounds like language amongst that howling wind. It doesn't seem like language with words, and it doesn't seem like any kind of barbarian, Elven, or Ambrian language that you know. You couldn't even try and replicate it if you did so. It's more of a feeling than articulate sounds. However, even though you don't know what is exactly being said, you absolutely get the sentiment loud and clear. You should not be here.
Okay. Well, I'm okay to leave. I've done my sightseeing.
Aaron is going to back slowly out the grove while saying aloud, apologies for intruding. We were looking for Malahai.
There is no change whatsoever in the wind, the sound, or the intensity of the wind.
I back out of the grove and maybe sketch a slightly unsure bow at it.
Theron cannot wait to leave.
Yep.
I told you there was something in there, Aaron.
Yeah, it didn't really like us much though, Stio.
No, but sure, it's just a childish dream, isn't it?
Can I say, I do love that you arrived here and were like, oh, I've heard about the Grove. It's really interesting. I want to see what happens there and stuff. And at no point did anyone turn to anyone on the plateau and go, so what about that Grove? Is it a place we should go?
No, Steve had all the stories. I knew what was going on.
You've heard the stories from Thistlehold, not from...
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So you two are going to just retreat down to the Pilgrim camp and meet the others, I expect. And I don't think this has taken all that long. I'd say your trip out to the Grove and back probably took a maximum of 2 hours. Like, probably not even 2 hours. Probably about an hour or so to travel there and lurk for a while and travel back. And I'd say going to pick up your supplies is equally... If there's one thing the merchants on Carvosti are used to selling, it's traveling supplies. So you don't have to search, you don't have to haggle. It's all fairly standard stuff. So with that in mind, is there anything else anyone wants to do on Carvosti before we leave Carvosti for New Earthmore? I think there is something you are forgetting, because although I haven't mentioned her, Revelia has been by your side all the way through this and was sat in the longhouse kind of quietly listening along, and is certainly intending on going with you, whether you want to make that clear or not. But one of your other traveling companions doesn't know shit about what you're doing. So do we want to talk to Ganderald?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
We also need to give a final answer to Bartho as well, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think if we leave, then he'll understand that that's a no.
Yeah, but...
I don't think we owe Bartho anything. We've done quite a lot for him.
The contents of Bartho's head appear to have been spread all over Carvosti in a metaphorical way. So, you know.
Sure. Well, who are we talking to first?
Yeah, it's been a while since we spoke to Ganderald. Let's check it.
Sure.
Just followed us silently all this time.
He's mainly been kind of like, well, he hasn't been around with you. He's been at the Pilgrim camp. He's been at the Longhouse, like in the Barbarian settlement. He's been up at the Sun Temple, kind of studying things and wandering around. Okay. And you find him at your tents, just sort of, he seems to be starting to pack, but not in a concerted I'm leaving today way, more kind of like gathering his possessions. Oh,
hi, Ganderald.
Hello.
So, we probably need to have a conversation.
We do. I am afraid the time is coming when I must travel south again.
Okay. Then it is perhaps a relatively short conversation. I think we've run into some sequence of events that mean that we're planning on staying in Davakar for a while and striking out in a different direction.
You're going after Symbar, aren't you?
No, we're not. May I draw a line under that right now?
We might be.
There's other mysteries here that we're trying to unravel.
All right. I see. I understand. You're definitely not going after Symbar. It's the talk of the plateau.
We're going after Ilmendra.
I wonder what she said she'd found.
Regardless of what she said she's found, it sounds like she's landed into something dangerous.
I do not doubt your intentions.
Oh my
one bit.
God.
Do you have any advice for us based on this attempt of ours?
I don't know. I mean, half of my advice is don't. The other half
Is the other half go?
Yes. Look, be cautious. You've helped me a great deal in my travels here. I didn't find all the information I wanted, but I'm fairly sure that if I hadn't employed your aid, I'd be dead. Now I'll return to the Ordo. I will make a report, which will include a copious amount of praise for your assistance. The best of luck to you. I hope to meet you again. When you return to Thistlehold, let me know. We will share a drink and you will tell me of everything you found in Not Simba.
Thank you. Here's an interesting question. We found a number of artifacts on the way up here, which I assume that we're going to want to trade at some point, rather than drag deeper into the forest with us.
If you wish, I can hold on to those items, vouchsafe for them on the journey and back in Thistlehold. I will even have them examined by my master, so I can tell you what they are. But their payment for services rendered, they are yours.
I would absolutely take you up on that, Ganderald. That'd be a weight off my mind and a weight off a weight off my back as well.
Yes, it will be your back. I'm afraid I am taking the donkey.
We'll find a new one.
Well then, the best of luck on your travels. He steps forward to embrace each of you in turn, and then excuses himself to carry on tidying up his camp. He turns around and says, "Oh, the squire. Is she coming with you? If she wishes, I'm sure I can find her a place on whatever caravan I join up with on my way south."
We're about to go and ask her.
She is
right there.
Yeah.
Revelia, what would you like to do?
I would like to accompany you, Sir Knight.
You're...
Being a squire is all I know.
There are a number of things that we need to make sure that you understand here, though, Revelia. One, I am not a knight. Aaron is a knight.
You carry a blade and you defend the weak from the evil.
Okay, if that's your definition, then sure. Okay. Point number 2, you understand that you are in no way beholden to me, Revelia. Like, you can return with Ganderald to Thistlehold, go and join the Sun Temple, go and head on to other places in Ambria should you so choose.
Sir Knight, I am an orphan, raised by the Sun Knights. My master is dead. He died. Did he die attempting to? No, he died when Ganderald tried to help. Right, he's not the one who sacrificed himself. Yeah,
yeah.
He died trying to fight off the instincts of an enchantment. There is nowhere for me to go.
I can understand that. I know almost exactly what that's like.
It's barely any of my business, but between yourself, Alindra, Sirdar, and Tom, you could write a hell of a letter of recommendation from the heroes of the sinkhole to put this young lady into better status and not drag her through to almost certain death in the dark forest.
If that's what Revelia chooses, we could try to arrange that. If Revelia chooses to stay with us,
I am grateful for that intention, Sergeant Steele. I really am. But I would rather go with you.
Oh, I wish you'd stop using incorrect titles for everyone. Didn't even make it the corporal.
You were a sergeant of the city guard.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I was, but definitely not serving.
She shrugs, and maybe for the first time, you see a slight smile crack her face, and she says, "All right, old man."
Okay, she can come.
It was not your choice to make anyway, Theo, but thanks for your blessing.
Okay, and are we speaking to Brother Bartho?
I just remembered I have one last thing to speak to Ganderald about.
Okay, sure, yeah.
I will write this in a quick note, but I will ask him to pass on to, I don't have his first name, but Lord Calfas, if he could pass on news of his cousin's fate.
God, remind me what's happening here.
Calfas, Calfas was one of the knights.
Yeah.
Who was ensorcelled.
Sure.
And I can't remember the Calfas in Thistlehold, the sanitation.
Agramai.
Yes.
The sanitation. You're not sure if he's a lord or not, but yeah. Lord of shit, maybe.
He's a noble.
He is a noble.
I will ask you to respect him, sir.
Calfas, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Ganderald is more than happy to do that. Okay. Brother Bartho?
I can't be bothered.
Can anyone be bothered? It's fine. You don't have to do it together. Does anyone want to talk to Bartho, or are we not bothering?
I don't want to.
Great.
I'm happy to not role play it, but I would do the courtesy of going to him and saying, like, I think we're not going to take you up on that offer.
That's absolutely fine. You go to him and say that he. Could you give me a vigilance roll versus? Let me find his discreet. 1 second. His discreet is terrible. A vigilant roll at +5, please. You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, I make it.
Okay, and we will role play this out a bit, but you've kind of expressed that Bartho is outside of his tent, sort of. He seemed to be not argument, but certainly spirited debate with his other half, and he turns as you come up, and you explain the kind of the group's position to him. Do you give any kind of like reasoning, or are you just kind of like, oh, in a sort of friendly way, we're not going to take you up on it?
Yeah. Hope you and your wife or your partner are safe now. We have come to the decision that we're not going to take you up on your offer. So please do not, assume that we will be, taking you up on that offer. I don't know where I'm going with that.
He kind of runs one hand along the bald patch on top of his head and rocks back on his heels and says, "Well, I respect you taking the time to come tell me, Father, and I wish you all well on your travels. From your vigilant role, I will tell you that he definitely doesn't wish you all well on your travels. He seems more than a little annoyed by your decision. But he's trying to hide it."
That is fine. I will not really acknowledge it, but wish him well and turn and go away.
Absolutely. Okay. You. Sorry, was there anything else?
I was just going to say, I know that we went and did some shopping for supplies this morning. There's a few other things that I'm going to pick up before we head off, namely rations for Revelia, a new donkey, a map.
You're taking a donkey on the boat.
Oh, that's a good. Well, we've got like a month's worth of rations each. I don't know. Can we carry all of that?
Yeah, easily.
Okay.
Yeah. Rations
are not yummy.
Yeah. Remember, these are people who eat a lot less than we do.
Okay. If we don't need the donkey, we will not take the donkey.
Yeah, it'll be dried fruit, dried meat, grains. And also, as well, you in your Davokar travels, you've tended to supplement your food quite a lot by Ascarise hunting.
Fine. Okay, so rations, a map, and a cloak for Anton.
Oh yeah, well remembered.
Well, I was going to ask about that actually, because we've got the winter overcoats, right? So would
that'll
suffice?
do. Yeah, just wear it while you're. Make sure. I mean, you'll be wearing it anyway because it's warm. But like, yeah, you can just say that if you wanted that it's buttoned up all the time while you're there or something.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, and there's no one in the party that's likely to nick them when you're not looking. So
not currently. He will return one day. You gather yourselves, you gather your supplies, and you strike out to the southeast towards the arch bridge. You manage to get out of there probably a good amount of time before noon, and your journey is placid and uneventful, with the only exception being that the road is quite busy. A number of people traveling south, but also quite a few people traveling north. Groups of maybe slightly unsavory looking individuals, fortune hunters of the more desperate type, seem to be flocking their way towards Karvosti. Whether the Wrathguard will let them through the gate or not is another matter, but there's certainly a lot of traffic on the roads. A lot of the people traveling south look to be merchants and respectable travelers, and they look to be traveling south with some haste. As I said, it takes you not too long, 3 hours or so, to travel the roads. You travel past the Viara outpost where the palisade already seems to be starting to be recovered. There's no sign of lindworms or bodies anywhere, and it seems bustling both with the travelers and with the effort of rebuilding that outer barricade. And then about an hour later, you find yourself on the path out to the arch bridge. And as you're traveling along that road, again, numerous people moving along it with you, both Odavs and Ambrians alike, you come out in a valley in the middle of Davakar, which has been cleared on the edge of the river Malgamore. You can see that river that you are going to travel ahead of you, running thick and dark down towards Lake Volgoma in the west. It's going to be a hell of a paddle upriver if that's the way you choose to go. But that's a decision to be made next time. The entire settlement, which is bustling and large, made of stone buildings and heavy thatched roofs that are not unfamiliar to you, is dwarfed by its namesake, a vast arch bridge, partially collapsed, that is clearly of Symbaric origin, cresting over a large, thriving market that you can hear from a full couple of kilometers away as the merchants ply their wares. Travelers and the Odavs make up their time as their customers. One of the things that strikes you, and it's probably nothing new to Askarai, who's traveled more on the edges of Davakar than you have, the real thing that impacts you, this settlement entirely of the Odavs, it's not made by Ambrians. It was already here before Ambrians arrived. Really, there's very little difference between the look of this and an Ambrian settlement. And clearly that should make any of you who are still holding any notions about the differences between the clansfolk and the Ambrians, well, it'll certainly give you pause. And that is where we will end for this week, I think, in the settlement of Archbridge, a new location for us. How exciting. Okay, we're going to do some promo. In the meantime, if you have any comments or questions, throw them in the chat. We'll pop them up and we'll talk through them afterwards. Promo, there's links down below. Twitch, YouTube, you've watched on this, please check out the other one. There's also links to our social media, our Discord and our Patreon. Please have a look at those if those kind of things interest you. We have 2 weekly series at the moment. Wednesdays is Symbaroum and Mondays is Vaesen, another system from Fria Ligan. Both of those will be going on holiday after next week for Christmas and New Year for varied amounts of times. I think we're just going to take the 1 week off. Vaesen is going to take 2 weeks off. So next week is the last week of 2022 where you can catch us live here on the internet for your viewing pleasure. We also run monthly one-shots, the next of which is this coming Saturday, where we're going to finish off our Alien trilogy, more Fria Ligan games because we love them so much. We'll be going live with that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon GMT. If you want to catch the previous stories in this trilogy, they're on our YouTube. Either check out our one-shot playlist to find them easily or search for A Place of Burning and A Congress of Sorrows. Oh my God, so smooth. I'm the promo master. It's true. What everything says about me, they're all lies. So with that in mind, and actually before we hop into comments and questions, there's a few. Oh wow, there's quite a bit of stuff I missed because I wasn't looking at chat. So follows over the last short while. Thank you to Seni1805, Sauerkraut Kid, GothCon Actual, which is an amazing name. Thank you for your resubscribe to Steve. Thank you for your resubscribe to Naga. And also, Naga, thank you for the 1 community sub gift. I didn't even notice that happening because it didn't pop up in my StreamYard here. But thank you ever so much. We really appreciate that. Who got that? Who got that? Did someone we know get that? Get that community sub? It should have. It pops up who gets it, right? Rastapopoulos. Well done on your lovely gift. There we go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Comments, questions, insults, judgments.
I would just like to put this forward.
Prophecies. Don't kick food. I'm going to watch this entire stream without making a single pun. Now, did they do it?
That's foreshadowing, is it?
Dead to me. Dead to me.
They tried. They really tried.
Sorry, don't kick food.
Dead to me. Steve, new mechanic. For every question you ask, you pay Matt £5. Please do. Yeah. I'm happy with that. Yeah.
If that included players, I'd be broke.
Yeah. Although, speaking of new mechanics, cool to get the scheming up. I really like that. I like it, and it feels quite nice. Fun. Yeah. And you know what? Because it's the first time we're starting it, and I won't do it for all of them, as a special treat, do you want to think of a faction, and I'll tell you what your current modifier is with them.
Elves.
You want it to be elves? Well, there isn't an elf faction. There is an Iron Pact faction, and I'll tell you your modifier with them if you want. Is that what we want?
Yeah. I'd like to know that.
Your current
I'd
modifier.
quite like to know what our alliance is with whatever it is the Queen's Legate has going on, but let's go. I'm happy to go with Iron Pact.
Fight for it then. Okay. Well, if it's the Iron Pact, your modifier with them currently is +1.
Ka-ching.
Yeah.
Even though whatever we should have done to trigger their subquest on the hill, we completely whiffed.
Who says it's even come up yet? Anything could be waiting out there in Davakar, Chris.
So are the modifiers just for like the stuff that we've done in this campaign in the Witch Hammer?
I carried it back to Wrath of the Warden, but okay. A lot of them do tick down over time.
Okay.
And the minute those start again, Matt. Like I say, smooth promo king. Essentially all the Copper Crown stuff is too long ago. So I only counted Wrath of the Warden. But yeah, a bunch of your stuff is from Wrath of the Warden, not from Witchhammer. Most of your stuff is from Wrath of the Warden. Yeah. Lowen, wasn't the third part of the Copper Crown somewhere in that area near the river? Yes, it was indeed. In fact, I will pop up the map again and show you exactly where the Tomb of Dying Dreams is. The Tomb of Dying Dreams is around here, where the river curves north.
And if you don't know what the Tomb of Dying Dreams is, you can watch all of our previous episodes, or you can trust me when I say it's the place where the Symbaric civilizations stored all their spears that don't have any backstory.
They do have backstory. Backstories that the Symbaric.
It was literally written on the wall in the tomb.
We could go back there on the way up the river.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like a mosaic of this?
Yep.
A massive, super impressive mosaic
in the
of the most famous thing that had happened to it.
In like the biggest, most impressive tomb we've done to, there's a huge mosaic of the most like famous king holding this exact spear, and Sears like, huh? What?
He was like, I believe he was holding aloft the body of like some wretched toad-like creature on the spear in the mosaic. He was also the fucking villain of that whole story. It's fine. He's just trolling you, Matt.
There's no pleasing him.
We have another backstory question.
Did someone steal a party's cloaks before? Well, someone hasn't watched episode 0. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Technically,
no. Actually, right? Technically, no. This party's cloaks have not been stolen by anyone before. But go watch the very first episode we did, the prologue, episode 0. For all the cloak stealing you'll ever need.
Unless you have some kind of cloak stealing trauma, in which case do not watch it, because
don't. It will definitely trigger you horribly. Fucking hell. What, for promos? Yeah, god damn it. For recaps.
No, you meant for watching episode 0.
Oh, yeah. That's
your assignment.
You know what? Maybe that shouldn't be an assignment. It's already by far our most popular video. So go watch other stuff instead. Go watch the best
Vampire.
Yeah, go watch the best thing I've done on the channel that no one gives a shit about. No. Go watch Cincinnati Chronicles instead several times. That's how much. Mike would very much enjoy Steel coming back with a Grove-themed kaleidoscope and a colourful eraser.
That was in response to Steo's comments about the gift center.
Yeah, no, I got that. Yeah. What was I laughed so hard at it that it's knocked itself out of my ears. What was Steo's proclamation about the Grove again?
So someone being thirsty for Grove.
Thirsty for Grove.
Which then prompted this.
Mike's just thinking of Groves now. I can tell because he's smirking. It sounds like the worst euphemism. It's what all the Zoomers are saying.
Hey,
they're
kids, you like
for Grove
blogging?
over on...
I've discovered something worse.
They're thirsty for Grove over on TikTok.
I mean, we've got the YouTube episode name.
We definitely do not. Naga, what is everyone's favorite TTRPG that you have played? My favorite TTRPG that I'll have to say that I've run is I'm going to go with Exalted. I love Exalted. I love the world.
Such a weird choice.
It's a campaign. It is a weird choice. It was a campaign that has kind of a dear place in my heart for various reasons. I was really happy with it. I love the world. I love the setting. So I'll go with Exalted. I love the system as well.
Are we going round?
Well, you spoke first, Stephen, so we can go round.
Well,
clockwise with you. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've got a big soft spot for Symbaroum. Actually, I'm really enjoying this. But outside of this, I always forget the numbers of the editions, but like whichever edition of Mage was the main one in the 90s. Second before they made it less good.
After they got rid of the cards, before they really made a lot of trouble.
That's the one, the big purple one.
Yeah.
I would say either probably Vampire, if not Vampire, Symbaroum.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm glad how everyone's picking stuff I've run, though I suppose I should caveat that with I think I'm the only person to have run stuff for Sam, or nearly. So
definitely longer term stuff. I'm sure I've been in stuff run by other people at some
You probably
point.
have, yeah.
Do you want to pick the source book for my favorite game system off the shelf there, Matt?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you can
Do
get
want
it.
First edition? That's fancier, right?
Oh yeah, go on. Let's get first edition out.
This is Chris's favorite role-playing system.
Board friends, angry violence doggos.
Absolutely. So we're 3 for 3 on White Wolf games so far. Well, not counting Symbaroum, I suppose. 4 for 4. Yeah, on Symbaroum. Mike.
Yeah, Matt is the only person who's GM'd things that I've ever done. So I'm tempted to go right out of the left field here and say like Mutant or something like that is my favorite. But no, it probably is either Exalted or Symbaroum.
I'm the only one for Mike.
Oh,
My favorite game system is maths.
Is that me running the game systems, or that it's your favorite game to fuck with me by keeping asking for backstory?
Actually,
Yes.
the secret third option, you're my favorite thing to run Doom on.
Yeah. I was going to make a Doom sound effect there, but I'd only have embarrassed myself. John?
I've been trying to properly think about it. I can only quantify this by what is the one game that if someone suggests it, I will say yes no matter what. And we're going 6 for 6 because I'm going to say Vampire.
There we go. I have horribly influenced most of these people.
It's shonky. It's slightly dated. It's got some interesting members in the subculture, but I do love it.
It's good. It's good shit. We've got any other questions or comments there, John?
Did like this one from Sam.
The one Forestier wants to be in, and it doesn't want him.
Oh my god! Ow! Ow! Ban that user!
Sorry, Sam.
I have to say, I also like this one from Don't Kick Food.
Ooh, sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
Stop it. You're a Simba fan. Name 3 of its kings.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Cool. Okay. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for playing. We'll be back next week with the last episode of Symbaroum in 2022. Be sure to join us for that. Be sure to join us on Saturday for Alien. It'll be a real good, real bleak one. Yeah, take care and stay safe out there. Goodbye.